It's your voice, your vote. Two candidates are looking to replace current County Commissioner Carl Robinson, who represents Precinct 4. Democrat Sergio Coronado will face off with Republican Blanca Trout for that Precinct 4 County Commission seat. Now, ABC7 invited both candidates to talk about their vision as county leaders should they win the race. Both agreed to talk to us, but just one day before our scheduled taping, Trout backed out. Joining us to talk about several issues facing the county is Sergio Coronado. Thank you so much for taking time to talk to us.
Thank you, Saul. We appreciate you and Channel 7 for giving us the time to talk to the voters about this very important county position.
Well, let's start off by talking about property taxes. As you well know, it's an issue countywide that a lot of residents are talking about their property taxes. Your plan, do you think they're high? Do you want to bring them down? What do you plan to do?
Well, you know, the important thing about our property taxes, people are concerned, our residents are concerned about their property taxes. The thing that we need to do is make sure that, to keep the taxes low, is we make sure that every single department and agency and county government is running efficiently. And apart from that, whenever there's needs in the county for certain things or infrastructure and investment, we just need to make sure that we make smart decisions about that so that we can obviously get the best possible rates if we're going to do funding for these needs. So it's just a matter of making sure that our county government has the resources necessary to operate, that they're operating efficiently, and that we make smart decisions about the investments we need for our county government. Those people require services, so there's a fine line that you have between trying to keep taxes down when there's a lot of needs in the community. People want their roads fixed. They want us to deal with their flooding. We have healthcare needs. And so those issues are very important to the county, so we need to do a good job and make sure we make sound decisions when it comes to those investments, infrastructure decisions.
Okay, let's move on to the next topic. The next topic being the migrant plan in place countywide at the county level. As you well know, a county center has opened up for migrants, and right now El Paso is going through an unprecedented surge. Your thoughts and your plans?
Well, you know, obviously this is a problem that the federal government, it's their responsibility. But, you know, we as local governments, as citizens of this area, we also have a moral and humanitarian duty to make sure that these individuals, when they come into our country, they're applying under our laws. A lot of these individuals are going to end up being here legally, permanently. And so, you know, we need to live up to our ideals that we're going to take care of these people. We want to make sure that they assimilate to our culture. All these people want to do is come and, you know, secure a better life for themselves and their families, and they want to work hard. So we need to make sure that we help them. The better we treat them, the better that they're going to think of our country, and that they're able to involve themselves in civic duties and responsibilities into our government and our culture.
And as you all know, El Paso County is growing from one end of the county to another. Let's talk about your precinct. What about neighborhood growth in your area? How is it expanding, and how do you plan to help out some of the homeowners and neighborhoods that are growing in your precinct?
Well, you know, we do have quite a bit of growth in Precinct 4. As a matter of fact, Canutillo Independent School District and Socorro are probably the only two school districts in this whole region that have an increase in student population. And so there is a lot of growth out there. We need to make sure that this growth is planned properly. We need to make sure that the county makes decisions when it comes to builders coming in to make sure that, you know, that they're making preparations for the growth, and not just that there's, you know, come in and build right away. We need to make sure that, that this is smart growth that we're doing, and I think it's happening in the county, at least on the west side. We need to both, you know, northeast and west side, make sure that these developments, you know, are appropriate, they're done well, and, you know, we welcome the growth. You know, our contractors here that, or our companies that build, I think are responsible. We just need to make sure that they continue doing that in a responsible manner to provide for the growth.
Is there anything that you want to do differently? Is there anything, perhaps a plan that you want to bring in to make sure that we do have smart growth? Because we do know that over on the east side, which is not your precinct, by the way, but over on the east side, it just keeps growing by leaps and bounds. And a lot of times there's no planned growth. Is that happening in your precinct, and would you do anything differently? Do you have a plan in place?
You know, thankfully, we're not getting those kinds of growth. We're getting smart growth on the west side, as well as in the northeast. But, you know, we just make sure that we continue that. I want to make sure that we have some regulations in place to make sure that we provide infrastructure for those areas that have high growth. Make sure that there's parks available, that we have the infrastructure available for utilities and all of that. Some parts in our county, we still don't have adequate utility service, such as water and sewer. So we need to make sure that the county plans for those issues.
Okay.
And I want to do that.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, I'll ask Mr. Coronado his thoughts about the UMC expansion and the certificates of obligation the hospital was requesting. Hear his response when we come back. Welcome back to Your Voice, Your Vote. With us now is Mr. Sergio Coronado. We were talking about several issues that he plans to attack if and when he does become the new commissioner for Precinct 1. We want to now move on to UMC expansion. As you well know, Mr. Coronado, first of all, thank you for joining us. But as you well know, we had this situation where UMC was requesting certificates of obligation rather than putting the question of raising funds to the voter. Your opinion on that?
I'm for these projects that the county wants to do with respect to our health care. We have those needs of, they want to do a cancer center. We also have some needs we're overcrowding in the area of both intensive care unit, surgery unit, an emergency. So we have a lot of these needs. We found out these needs during the pandemic, that some of the individuals that, aside didn't have issues with COVID, we couldn't treat them because of the overcrowding resulting from the pandemic. But, I'm for these projects. I wish that these projects had been rolled out in a different fashion. I think we needed to have been a little bit more engaging with the community about these needs. Roll them out, make sure that we go to each one of the areas in the city with each one of the precincts, involve the community, and we should have done it at an earlier time. If we'd have done this last year, the tax rates on these bonds or on these certificates of obligation would have been around 2%. We're now looking at a substantially higher amount, more like around 6% or so. Even if it's just a 3 or 4% difference, we're talking about a $12 to $15 million increase just because of the increase in the interest rates if we do these $346 million in bonds. So, I wish we'd have done this better. I'm for these projects. I just want to make sure that we're more transparent and engaging with the community and how we go about doing that. The proposal as it stands now, unless the interest rates increase, is that we're looking at about a $7 to $8 increase per month for residents of the county on probably $150,000 home. It's not much that it seems like, but what I'm telling the community is that the state leadership turned down funds that would allow us to be able to expand Medicaid, and so we turned that money away, free money. Our community has a lot of need for access to health care. We have one of the highest poverty rates in the state. Probably 1 out of 5 people in our county are below the poverty level. And so they don't have great access to health care. And when the state is turning money down, then we as a county need to step up and provide these services.
Okay, let's now move on to law enforcement and crime. Do you see a situation like that in your precinct that actually needs attention? Is law enforcement up to par to where you think it should be? And is crime low in your precinct, and what do you plan to do about it?
Well, thankfully, Saul, both in the city and in the county, we have one of the safest cities and counties in the country. And that's thanks to our law enforcement and our officials. But, we need to do a better job of it. Sure, we can always do better. I think that specifically when it comes to schools, to the safety of the schools, that's really a priority. I don't understand what's going on in our country when we have all these school shootings and mass shootings. We just need to be a little bit more prepared in our schools, but at the same time, our state leadership needs to respond by making more funds available. Every time that we spend more money on security, that's a dollar that we take away from the instruction of our kids. Not only that, our kids nowadays, our students have more need with respect to mental health issues. And so that's also taken away. We just need to make sure that the state leadership steps up to the plate and provides extra funds. Our teachers are leaving the profession because we don't have enough money to, so when we stop and focus on security, which is a great need, then we take money away from the other salaries of teachers and instruction. We need to do a better job with doing that. I plan to make sure that we lobby the state for additional funds, not just for our schools for security, but also in the county to make sure that we are fitted. with the equipment and proper training for our sheriff's department and our constables. A lot of times they respond to calls and there's people with mental health issues. Thankfully, the sheriff's department, I appreciate their work on this. They've got a crisis intervention team that now pairs a clinician with a deputy to go out and these certain calls where we have a need for somebody who has mental health issues and try to divert those people from going into the criminal justice system where it's going to cost us more to treat them. Thankfully, we need to do a better job with prevention on these issues with mental health, because what we're doing in the past is letting them get involved in the criminal justice system, and that's just not right.
Okay, Mr. Coronado, thank you so much for sharing your views on several topics. And remember, the one way to make sure your voice counts is by casting your ballot November 8th. You can count on ABC 7 to have complete coverage of the final results. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Senator. Appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.